I'm Kevin, and I'm joined by my co-host with Harrison Bader like hair.
Yeah, it's a weird ordeal. Katie is just proving to be childish.
Which is why I don't feel I would give $5 million to Jack Campbell.
I don't know. Baseball is one of those sports where anyone who makes the playoffs really can be a contender.
I think the Padres definitely do it.
I don't think Donovan Mitchell gets traded.
Kyrie Irving does have the track record of not being a great locker room fit, or even good locker room fit.
Bader got some luscious locks, I gotta say it.
This is Zach Bigley, the broadcaster for the Frisco Rough Riders, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin. You guys better subscribe.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. And this is a Colts check-in, but an important part of this check-in is Phillip Rivers, who did play for the Colts, signed to their practice squad, Austin.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know how the practice squad works, once you're signed to the practice squad, you can be called up to the active roster to play 3 times before you have to sign a contract for the rest of the season. There's a strong chance that Phillip Rivers starts this week. There's a grade 1 PCL strain for Riley Leonard that usually is a multi-week absence, and Brett Rippion's the other backup. So I don't know if Phillip Rivers is going to start. However, I don't think it's the worst case scenario. There are worst quarterbacks, I think, that may be playing right now, at least backup or otherwise. I think that Phillip Rivers obviously has been sitting on the couch, but he has been coaching football, so I'd imagine he's still been throwing the ball around. He admitted in his press conference today that he's a little bit heavier than he was, which is funny, but he never was like a mobile QB. Now, I do think they're going to have to change the offense to have a kind of like Brady-esque offense towards the end of his career, where it's extremely fast-paced. All the routes seem to be short, get the ball out quick. But as long as he doesn't take any major hits because you're getting the ball out quick, I don't see too much of an issue because he's used to the offense. Now, there's not going to be many downfield threats. Look, he's not going to be throwing the ball all over the place. But as a game manager QB with an MVP caliber running back and a very good O-line, it could be worse. QB is a lot in the mind, and the mind never goes bad as long as you don't get a lot of head injuries during your career, right? So his mind is still good, which should allow him to manage the game. He's been through multiple games throughout his career, hundreds of games, and because of that, he'll be able to read a defense. That doesn't change. Now, the defenses have gotten a lot more advanced, and there's a lot better players, I think. Not maybe a lot better players, but there's definitely a lot of players that are still really good. And the Seahawks defense, who's going to be playing this week, is extremely talented. Mike McDonald is a great defensive mind, so this is going to be a tough first matchup. But it's not like he doesn't know how to look at a defense and decipher where to throw the ball. He knows he's got to get the ball out quick. He knows he can't take a sack. And if he does take a sack, he can't take many sacks. But if we're acting like he can't diagnose a defense, which is, I think, the most important thing for a QB, he at least has that.
So, yes, he has the mental game for it. The problem is, how well does he do physically with it? Because
if it's all short, quick routes, I think he'll be fine. It's when those long developing plays that I think he'll have a trouble with.
And the Colts are in a very difficult position because you have Daniel Jones, the backup's supposed to be Anthony Richardson. He gets hurt in practice, fracturing his orbital bone. And then they're down to this with Jones getting hurt. And this is after the trade deadline, so you can't make a trade. The problem with me, though, is I feel like he hasn't played in 3 years in the NFL. I think his mind is up to it. I'm worried about his physical attributes with it. And why not? It also takes a huge part of their offense out with signing Rivers of the dual threat quarterback. We talked about it before. I would have loved yeah.
Steichen has been an offensive mind with Rivers. He knows how Rivers works. So, yes, while this offense is definitely not going to be how it was, And there's a lot of, like we talked about, the dual threat of capabilities, which Rivers has zero of at this point in his career. Crazy to say at this point of his career after his career was over for 4 years, but there's a lot of for backups. Let's just talk for backups. There's a lot of QBs that can't read a defense to the level that a multi-time Pro Bowler has gotten consideration for at least the Hall of Fame. If not, he gets in. I don't think he gets in, but consideration at least. Those type of players have. I think a big conversation that I know Brady's mentioned this a lot of times during broadcasts, but QBs don't have to read defenses as much anymore, which can really hamper you if you don't have all the intangibles. He has the ability to read a defense very well. And while I completely agree that there's no downfield threats, he's not going to be extending plays, and there's no dual threat ability, he could run a Tampa style, like last season Brady style offense and just waste clock and run really short plays, like within 15 yards, and keep the ball moving. Now they're going to have to design the playbook a lot differently than what they have. Now, can Steichen and the rest of the offensive coaches come up with a game plan quickly enough? I think is really the question. But if the question is, can Phillip Rivers is Phillip Rivers the best option? I think he is, of the QBs that are available, because you have a grade 1 PCL sprain with Riley Leonard, which is a multi-week absence usually. Brett Rippon has never had a good game in the NFL in his entire career. And I think you need more of just the mental spot than you need a great performance. Peyton Manning, in his last year of his career, was horrible when it came to anything throwing the ball down the field. I think Rivers will be basically that. Basically Manning's last season. Now, that team won a Super Bowl with a great defense, mind you. And their running game was worse than the running game that Phillip Rivers has now. If they didn't have a top 3 running back in the league, I would be significantly more concerned than I am. Because you have to at least consider the fact that you could run JT 3 straight times and be productive because their O-line is still good. And they have talented receivers that can do stuff after they catch the ball, whether that's screen passes, short passes like Andy Reid does, or other stuff. Because they have Josh Downs, they have Michael Pittman, they have Tyler Warren, they have Alec Pierce. So they have a lot of useful players on their roster that can help. If there was very minimal talent around Phillip Rivers, this would be a terrible, terrible, terrible thing for them. And it would be an answer that would just not be an answer. They would get smoked by everybody who they played against. But they have extremely talented players around him, and he has the mind to control the offense. I'm not going to say out there they're going to win a lot of the games they play, but I think they're still, with Rivers, better than the Browns. I think they're better than the Titans. I think they're better than a lot of those bottom feeder teams. And I mean, the Texans' offense is not good. Now, their defense is insane, but they're going to have some key matchups coming up. And they looked good against the Jaguars without Daniel Jones. The OPI, which is pretty weak against Michael Pittman, gets called back, which was a touchdown. And there's some other plays that happened that kind of lost them that game outside of just the Daniel Jones injury. But can they compete? I think they can compete. Win is a different story, but compete, I think they can compete.
I think they can compete because of the supporting cast. I don't know. I think it goes to say, like, Phillip Rivers isn't a negative, but he isn't a positive. I really think they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, just calling up a guy who hasn't played in 3 years when Taylor Heineke, I believe, is on a practice squad, and he could be signed to their active roster, and it would work. I think you would provide that dual threat capability. And also, I think one interesting player that could be signed is Hendon Hooker, who's currently a free agent. So you could have signed him to the practice squad, see what he had, get him used to the playbook.
The problem with a guy like Hendon Hooker is he's never played at the NFL level, and you can't guarantee that he actually knows how to read a defense at the NFL level. which I think is a bigger problem than trying to force a dual threat quarterback. I get the Heineke one. I get the Heineke one, but I think Hendon Hooker is a lot that is below Phillip Rivers in my opinion because he's never played.
I think there is a lot to think about Phillip Rivers at 44 years old and what
We have
he
to look
can do.
past age. Age does not matter to me. It's the fact that he hasn't played in 4 years and the fact that he can, but his reading a defense trumps being able to run the ball with a quarterback.
But can he just do everything physically? And I think that is a very large question.
He can throw anything past 15 yards on the field, probably not. But he can throw accurately within 10 yards. I know he can.
I
That's
feel
not a
this
big
is a
ask.
very yeah, but you're severely hampering your offense just to fit a guy. Yes, he can read a defense, but you still got to have a threat
you
of a
would be
deep
doing
ball.
it worse. That you would be hampering your offense worse with Hendon Hooker because you can't get the ball to most of your good players. If you can't read a defense, it doesn't matter if you could throw the ball. If you're going to throw 8 picks doing it.
You make a good point, but I really do not. This seems like an out of the blue move, and
I think it's less crazy than a lot of people are letting on. Is it the best option? I don't know. But is it crazy? I don't think it's crazy. I've seen crazier decisions. Say again?
I think it's pretty crazy calling up a guy after 3 years and being like, hey.
The Rams did it a couple seasons ago because when they won the Super Bowl, Eric Weddle hadn't played in like 2 years. And they just called him up because they had no safeties available. They were like, okay, our entire secondary is cooked. And Eric Weddle played absolutely insane and was probably their best player on defense during that Super Bowl besides Aaron Donald. So it's not the first time I've seen something like this happen. Yes, he's 44. But playing safety at whatever age Eric Weddle came back and played safety wasn't an easy task either.
That's true. It could be a really cool story, but I do feel it's stretching a lot and putting a lot of pressure on a team that needs to win now and wants to compete in the playoffs. I don't feel it's going to work well.
There's worse options. I think there's 100% worse options.
There are worse options, but this is not the best option.
Here's I think the reason why I don't think it's as bad as you're letting on. He knows the offense. If you're going to sign Hendon Hooker, who has never played at the NFL level, he also doesn't know the offense. So he doesn't know the game plan, doesn't know the offense, doesn't know the receivers. Phil Rivers has played with Michael Pittman. I mean, that's a plus. He knows the receiver. He played with him in a playoff game. So he has familiarity with the offense. He at least has familiarity with Michael Pittman. He's throwing the ball to him. It's not like Michael Pittman got significantly faster or slower. I mean, he's not been in the league that long. So he has familiarity with the offense, familiarity with the player, familiarity with the coach. I mean, I think that matters a lot, especially for a quarterback. For any other position, I don't think that matters all that much. But for quarterback, understanding the offense is 90% of the job.
Yes, it is important. To me, my first option would have been Heineke. Hooker, to me, would have been an interesting option because he does give you upside in the future.
I think that is a like last resort. I mean, like, I think that's probably the last person you call or a player at that level. Like, that's like calling Brett Ripien or any of those other guys, because not only do they not have that experience starting many games in the NFL, but they also don't know the offense. Like, at that point, just start Brett Ripien. At least he's been on the practice squad all season. Like, at the bare minimum, he knows the offense. He's in the meetings.
Yeah. It's a weird situation, but it could be really cool. I think it's going to be pretty sad, just kind of
sad, I think, is the wrong way to put it. I don't think it's going to be sad. The offense is not going to be great. But that's not what they're trying to ask Phillip Rivers to do. They're not asking Phillip Rivers to be anything more than what he is right now. Or they wouldn't sign him.
But
I
well,
think
what is the goal? Just to win a couple games, then lose in the playoffs, or winning the?
They're trying to win in the playoffs, but if you think about the goal for Phillip Rivers, not the team, the goal of Phillip Rivers is just to manage the game at the absolute maximum of his powers, which is not that crazy of an ask. I think if you were to call Brady right now, he could do. I mean, I think he'd be better than Phillip Rivers, but it wouldn't be that crazy of an ask because he's played. Phillip Rivers played the game for so long. All he has to do is be like Peyton Manning in his last season. Phillip Rivers right now may be better than Peyton Manning in his last season. Peyton Manning threw 9 touchdowns in 16 games plus playoffs.
It might be the same physical. I don't know. You really can't guess. I do think there's an important part to the physical aspect of football, and I would be shocked that Phillip Rivers still has it.
Physically speaking, it's not like he has to run. He has to throw the ball.
I think there's
like
still.
I said,
what happens if they go no huddle?
I think
can
he
he
can run
still do it? Can he do that and throw the ball consistently?
We're not asking him to throw the ball 80 yards down the field.
No, but let's say you do those short throws. He's going to be constantly running. He may get tired because he hasn't done it for 3 years.
Sure, yes, I get your point, but they're not going to be running 2-minute drills outside of the 2-minute mark. Like it's only going to be a couple times during the game, and they probably have already planned out how that would go play wise to try to give him as much time as possible for himself. Now, sure, if you need to clock a ball, I don't think Phillip Rivers is probably your best option to do that. However, at the same time, he's not like. I don't think he's been sitting on his couch this entire time. As a coach, he coaches high school football. They're not doing nothing all day.
They're not. But have you seen a lot of the size demographics of high school football coaches?
I mean, we saw him in the press conference. He's not bad. I
mean, well, yeah, but I'm just saying, there are very few fit high school football coaches from my experience.
I think there's more than you're letting on, but I get your point. I get your point. I don't think that he's crazy out of shape. Is he out of shape? Yes. I don't think it's untenable, though.
Well, I think it's when you look at out of shape in general, I think that is far off from the NFL in shape.
I'm asking for his job right now on the Colts. I think he's out of shape. I don't think he's crazy out of shape.
I think he's close to crazy out of shape. It's hard to simulate an NFL game for him. I just think, how can you prepare except go through it? And he only has a few weeks to get in that shape, and they're in a do or die scenario.
I get that. I get the point you're trying to make. I just don't think it's like insane. It's bad, but I don't think it's insane.
Okay.
There's been crazier asks.
What's a crazier ask?
I don't know, asking Michael Jordan to play baseball. I mean, there's definitely been crazier stuff in sports that I've watched happen.
Well, in crazier sports, I don't know about NFL.
Asking any other position player to kick besides the kicker.
You could go Josh Johnson with the Broncos in that COVID year.
That wasn't Josh Johnson.
Was it? Or was it the wide receiver?
It was a wide receiver. Josh Johnson's a QB. Josh Johnson's been a QB his entire career.
Well, yeah, no, but the guy's last name was Johnson.
It wasn't. I don't think it was Johnson. I think it was, I can't remember his name, but I don't think it was Johnson. Yes, that was worse because he's never played quarterback since college. So, well, I don't even know.
Okay, it wasn't John. It was Kendall Hinton.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, okay. I couldn't remember his name. I thought it was started with an H. I just couldn't remember. You said Hayden Hooker, and I kept thinking in my head Hayden Hooker. And I'm like, it's not Hayden Hooker. I just can't think of his name. Yeah, that's significantly worse.
Yeah.
Now that's a different circumstance, obviously, but
different circumstance. The Colts called him up. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens. I'm very interested to see
Again,
what happens.
I think there's worse starting quarterback options in the NFL than Philip Rivers at this level. Again, because you can't read a defense. Like, there's so many QBs in the league right now that just cannot read the defense. So, yes, in the 2-minute drill, you may have to just sub in another quarterback. But outside of that, I think if we're just talking first quarter, third drive, I think they're fine. Fine is not the best way to put it, but he's not going to throw in an exorbitant amount of picks. They're going to be quick on offense. They're not going to be crazy efficient. I think the biggest problem they have is the defenses they play moving forward. I mean, their games are the Seahawks, great defense. 49ers, it has been horrible because their entire team's dead. So 49ers are by far the weakest defense they play left. But then they play the Jaguars and the Texans. So their last 4 games are Seahawks, very good defense. 49ers, not great. Jaguars, very good. And Texans, the best defense in the league. So if you got to think you got to win at least 2 of those games to even have a chance at the playoffs. Now, what games can they win? The 49ers are completely banged up. I think that's possible because of how bad their defense is right now, the 49ers. I mean, the 49ers have played a lot of bad teams close this year. They beat the Cardinals by a point on a field goal at the end of the game. Like, the 49ers aren't that great in my opinion, but they survived with CMC. I think the Colts defense is good enough to give them a chance. But I don't know how you win. You would have to beat either I don't think you beat the Seahawks at Seahawks. And then you have the Jaguars and the Texans. And those are just bad matchups in general. Just like as it is, bad matchups. To have a chance at the playoffs, though, you have to win 2. Can you win 2 games? I could give you 1. I just don't know how they win 2 games.
Yeah, I think it's very low, and it's a bad situation. But we'll have to see. I'll let you close this one out.
Yeah, please let us know how you think that Philip Rivers will do and how the Colts will end up their season.